So when we talk about the general movements, it means we are giving the general characteristics of these one. Though there are details as well, but here we are discussing the general things. Okay, when we talk about diffusion, it is down the gradient, down the concentration gradient. Okay, means from high concentration to lower concentration. What about osmosis? It is also down the concentration gradient. Okay, and what about active transport? So we say it is against the gradient. Okay, against the concentration gradient. Okay, is membrane involved in these three? Where? Okay, here only a membrane is involved. In other two, membrane is not involved. So through a partial permeable membrane. Okay. What about the type of molecules that diffuse or that do osmosis, or that the type of molecule? So when we talk about diffusion, mostly liquids and gases, they diffuse, right? But when we talk specifically about water, then we have to give the term osmosis. We can talk about different liquids like the liquid bromine. Okay, so there won't be any osmosis in liquid bromine. Osmosis is a word that we use specifically for water. Okay. Okay, and which type of molecules or particles move through active transport? Mineral ions. Okay, mineral ions. Okay. Um, can you give me example of diffusion in human body and then in animals? Good. Exchange in alveoli. Okay. How does the exchange take place in alveoli and in stomata? What is different in the exchange of both? Through stomata. Okay. So basically, alveoli has more oxygen, right? And blood has lesser oxygen. So oxygen diffuse into the blood from alveoli. And what about stomata? There would be oxygen where? In the cell, or in the space between the spongomesophil cells, right? Then the outside, lesser oxygen outside in the environment. Okay. Okay, give me example of osmosis in, so, plants and animals. In animals, when we soak different type of seeds, different pulses, even rice, we soak rice, right, before cooking. So that one is soaking in water. That is an example of osmosis. Give me example in animals. Red blood cells. Okay. Okay, give me an example of active transport in animals and in plants. In animals, nerve impulse, uptake of minerals. What is nerve impulse? What is nerve impulse? Good. Electrical signal that travel along the neuron. Good. Okay. Now let's talk about each in detail. And we are going to discuss osmosis in detail because most of the time the question is related to osmosis. So osmosis take place in, let's talk about both cases, the animal one and the plant one. Okay. So we have osmosis in plants, and let's discuss the case in animals. Okay. Okay. So what will happen? There are three type of solution, right? The hypertonic one, the hypotonic one, and isotonic one. Do you have any idea about that? Okay. How do you define these three? Okay. How do you define the solution? Sorry. How do you define the, let me rephrase the question. How would you define the solution? Okay. How do you define the solution? Like what is hypotonic solution? A solution that has lower solute and more water. Hypo. Okay, let me see. Hypo is more water. So I told my, I usually tell my student you can learn it from hippo. Like hippo lives in water. There's lots of water available. That's why it's getting fat. Okay. Okay. Hyper is with salts, more salts and less water. And isotonic mean whenever there is a word iso in sciences, it means same. Okay. Same salt inside and outside. Okay. So when we place animal cell in hypertonic solution, basically there is less water outside. Okay. So water move from high water potential to lower water potential. There is more water inside and less water outside. So water moves out. Yes, hyper. Water concentration. Water concentration. No, it's opposite. Yes. Inside is high, outside is low. Low, yes. Osmosis is from high concentration to low concentration. Yes. That's why the cytoplasm shrink. Now you look at this diagram, the cytoplasm is shrinking. And the shrinking is called as plasmolysis. You should know this term. Plasmolysis. Plasma mean related to plasma and lysis mean breakdown. The breakdown of cytoplasm. Okay. Okay. Now the question is, why do cells shrink or become smaller in size or lose mass when we place it in a concentrated solution? It's a general question, like a very common question that is part of your exam most of the time. Okay. Why do a plant cell lose mass when placed in hypertonic solution or concentrated solution? Okay, wait. Let me say. It's a 4 mark question. Now answer it. Water moves out by osmosis. Cytoplasm shrink. Now the question is, how do they lose mass? Good. So the shrinking mean water moves out. The way, sorry, the mass is lessened or lost. Okay, good. And yes, we can say this. Okay. And why do it increases or gain mass when placed in a dilute solution? Now the second name of hypotonic solution is dilute, mean a lot of water is available. Simple. Okay. Into the cell. Okay. Now I have to explain. I have to explain. Wait. Okay, your first 2 points are absolutely right. The water concentration here, if you talk about hypertonic, the water concentration is higher outside than inside the cell. So water move inside the cell by osmosis due to the difference in concentration. Now, when waters enter over here, the water is filled in the vacuole and it would become turgid. Now, learn this term, okay? And this turgid vacuole put a pressure on cell wall called as turgor pressure. Okay, the pressure exerted by a vacuole on cell wall is turgor pressure, exerted by a vacuole on cell wall. Now the cell become turgid or bigger in size and increase mass, and it won't burst. Why it won't burst? Because of cell wall. What is cell wall made up of? Cellulose. Good. Okay, but in animal cell, if we place the cell in hypertonic solution, it would burst. Why? In dilute solution, the animal cell would burst. They have no walls, so they would burst. Okay, you have to give the same explanation, like if it's given for 4 mark. Mostly it's a 4 mark, not more than that. Yes, each and everything. You have to tell the difference in concentration, you have to tell the water movement, you have to tell what happened to cytoplasm or the vacuole, and then you have to tell whatever they have asked in the question. You have to relate your information with that, whatever is asked in the question. Okay? Okay. Uh, Now the last one is the active transport. Okay, in active transport you might know the name of transport proteins or protein carriers. No, what a protein? Okay, then let me explain. Protein carriers. Okay, what is active transport? Active transport is against the gradient. Okay, you have to climb up the hill. Now you are not able to climb up the hill. You would take some kind of lift. That would be your carrier protein who's carrying you to the upper part. Okay, so carrier proteins are special type of protein that help in the transportation of the mineral ions or other ions across the membrane. Okay, that's why their name is carrier protein. Okay, have you got the example? You want to go upstairs, like you have to climb a building and you have to go to the 20th floor. You won't be able to do that. Okay, you would use a lift, right? Now this lift is your protein carrier, carrier protein. Okay, in a cell, whenever there is a nerve impulse, because there is like electrical impulse, mean there are charges, the positive ions and the negative ions, they cannot move into and out of the cell easily due to the presence, because they are already higher inside. Okay, now what will happen, the proteins, they will pick those ions and put them inside the cell from outside to inside, and these proteins are present in cell membrane. Wait, I'm just giving you the diagram. Let me take a screenshot of this one. Oh, it's very small. It's not even like that big. Wait, let me just check the bigger one. Any big diagram. Okay, this one is okay, I guess. It's different, but okay, let's see. Okay. It's a cell membrane, right? It's a cell membrane. It's a cell membrane. The upper one, the smaller blue ones. This purple is the carrier protein. Now they are already, the molecules are higher. Already there are four, right? But the molecules have to go inside somehow. So it's moving with the help of proteins. Okay. Now, because it would use some kind of energy, like lifts use electricity. So this would also use energy, and this energy would come from ATP, So one difference I have missed over here. Let's talk about that. The energy one. Is energy required in diffusion? No energy is required. These are passive. Is energy required in osmosis? No. Is energy required in active transport? Yes. Okay. So this is all for transport in animals and plants. So we'll discuss the question answers later. Okay.